The spark for this adventure came from a place of curiosity, and maybe a little bit of restlessness. It was one of those silly, wonderful ideas that just wouldn't leave me alone, the kind that makes you laugh at yourself before you even begin. I travel a lot. Amazing places, incredible people, unforgettable food. Every trip brings new sights, new flavors, and new stories to tell. But sometimes, even in the middle of all that excitement, I feel like I'm just skimming the surface, watching life happen instead of really living it. In Ranchi, Jharkhand, surrounded by the energy of the city, I felt a nudge. Phil, you're missing something. There's a whole world here you're not quite touching. What if, for just one day, I put away my English and only used the local language, Nagpuri, of which I knew about 5 words. No guidebook, no translation app, just me and my willingness to try. The challenge, 24 hours, no English, just my clumsy, awkward Nagpuri. It sounded impossible, but that's what made it exciting. I wasn't aiming to become fluent overnight. I wanted to connect, to struggle, to be vulnerable, and to see what happens when you lose your safety net and step into someone else's world. I wanted to be more than a tourist, more than just a visitor passing through. I wanted to experience Ranchi as deeply as I could, even if it meant making a fool of myself. I wanted to be a better guest, to show respect for the people and the place by trying, even if I failed spectacularly. The real adventure? Trying to order coffee without being able to say coffee, relying on gestures, smiles, and a lot of hope. I pictured myself gesturing wildly, probably ending up with something I didn't order, and I smiled at the thought. Maybe I'd get tea or a snack I'd never heard of, but that was part of the fun. That's where the best stories come from. The mistakes, the messes, the pure silliness of trying and failing and trying again. Those are the moments you remember. The plan was set. Tomorrow, from sunrise to sunrise, I'd be a man of very, very few, and probably incorrect words. I had no idea what would happen, but that's exactly why I had to try. The night before, as the city of Ranchi glimmered quietly outside my window, I found myself caught in a strange mix of excitement and anxiety. It felt like the first day of school, except this time the classroom was an entire city, and the subject was a language I barely knew. Armed with a notebook, a pen, and the kindness of a hotel staff member who patiently wrote down essential Nagpuri phrases for me, I tried to steady my nerves. I practiced the basics over and over. How are you? Tor Kaisan Halkal? Repeating the words until they started to sound almost familiar. I rehearsed my introduction. My name is Phil. More naam Phil Heki. Each syllable felt like a small victory. And of course, the most important phrase of all, I'm sorry, I am learning. A simple line, but one that carried all my hopes for understanding and connection. The words felt foreign, like clothes that didn't fit quite right, awkward and unfamiliar on my tongue. Doubt crept in. What if I couldn't do it? What if I just frustrated everyone I met, or worse, embarrassed myself completely? But then I reminded myself, the goal wasn't to be perfect, it was simply to try, to show up, to make the effort, and to be open to learning. People appreciate when you try, even if you fumble or stumble over your words. Sometimes effort speaks louder than fluency. To lighten the mood, I doodled in my notebook. Smiley faces, cups of chai, a stick figure shrugging as if to say, I'm trying my best. Eventually, exhaustion took over. I fell asleep with Nagpuri phrases swirling in my mind, a jumble of nervous energy and hopeful anticipation for what tomorrow would bring. That night, I dreamt I was explaining my favourite movie to a room full of locals using only hand gestures and broken Nagpuri. It was chaotic, hilarious, and oddly comforting. As the first light of dawn crept into my room, I knew the real adventure was about to begin, and whatever happened, I was ready to give it my all. The sun rose and my challenge began. I walked to the breakfast buffet, stomach rumbling with nerves. No English, just my notes and a wobbly jahar to the omelette chef. He smiled back. Success! Ordering was a game of charades. I pointed at eggs, onions, tomatoes, and made a circular motion for omelette. The chef laughed, understood, and asked about spices. I gave a big thumbs up. Watching him cook, I felt a wave of relief. I hadn't used a single word of English, and I was about to get a hot breakfast. It felt like a tiny, delicious victory. The omelette was perfect. Every bite tasted like success. I thanked the chef in Nagpuri. He smiled. That simple breakfast gave me the confidence I needed for the day. If I could get food, I could do anything. Buoyed by breakfast, I set out for Jagannath Temple. I needed to navigate Ranchi's transport system, no English allowed. I flagged down an auto rickshaw, pointed at my notebook. Jagannath Mandir. The driver rattled off something in Nagpuri. I just blinked. He used his hands, held up 5 fingers, then pointed to a 10 rupee coin. 50 rupees. I nodded and he gestured for me to hop in. The ride was a sensory overload. Colours, smells, sounds. The driver pointed out sights, said things I didn't understand. I smiled and nodded. At one point, he pointed at a cow in the road. We both burst out laughing. We didn't share a language, but we shared that moment. 2 strangers, an auto rickshaw, and a cow. Perfect. I arrived at the temple, feeling like I just unlocked a new level. Communication 1, language barrier 0. Onward. After the temple, I dove into the chaos of a local market. My mission buy fruit in Nagpuri. I approached a stall, pointed at bananas and asked, Kela, Ketik Dam? The vendor smiled and replied with a number. I panicked. I didn't know Nagpuri numbers. I held up my wallet. She laughed and showed me the notes. 30 rupees. I paid, and she added an extra banana with a wink. That small gesture meant the world, a reward for trying. I realized travel isn't about seamless experiences, but about these little moments of connection. I didn't just buy fruit, I shared a laugh. Suddenly I wasn't just a tourist, I was the funny foreigner trying his best, and that made all the difference. I found a chai stall and ordered tea with my perfected method point smile, say chai. The owner, Suraj, handed me a glass. We sat in companionable silence. Suraj asked, Tourists? I nodded. Han, tourist, I replied. We introduced ourselves, Phil and Suraj. He gestured, Kahan, and mimed a plane. America, I said. His eyes widened. America, he repeated, grinning. He listed Michael Jackson, Obama. I laughed, then pointed at him. Shah Rukh Khan, high five. We connected through pop culture. Our conversation was a patchwork of words, gestures, and laughter. I learned he had a wife and daughter. He learned I loved his tea. It wasn't about complex ideas. It was about finding common ground, one smile at a time. I left feeling more connected to Ranchi than ever. Every adventure needs drama. Mine was a headache. I needed paracetamol, but how do you mime that? At the pharmacy, I pointed to my head, winced, and groaned. The pharmacist stared, then asked, Dard? Pain? I nodded, pointing at my head again. Han! Dard! He returned with a strip of tablets. Paracetamol. Relief washed over me. I paid, thanked him in Nagpuri, and left empowered. I'd solved a real problem without English. The struggle was real, but the success was immense. Communication is more than words. It's intention, gesture, and a willingness to look silly. Sometimes that's all you need. Onward, headache-free. Evening, one last meal to close out my experiment. I found a family-run eatery, greeted everyone with Johar. I used my new phrase, Kana kaye ke hey, I want to eat. No menu, just pointing at another table's food dal and bhat. The owner laughed and brought me a simple thali. I watched the family's easy conversation, feeling like a quiet guest. The food was delicious. Every bite a reward for a day of effort. The owner's young son watched me eat, shyly smiling. No words needed. Paying was more pointing and holding up notes. I left with a full stomach and a full heart. Walking back under the stars, I reflected. It had been hard, embarrassing, and rewarding. I'd connected with people in a way I never would have otherwise. My 24 hours were almost up, and I'd never forget them. The next morning, the challenge was over. The city was waking up, and so was I, feeling a sense of relief, but also a strange nostalgia for the experience I'd just had. I could speak English again, and suddenly everything felt familiar and effortless. The words flowed out, and I realized how much I'd missed the comfort of my own language. I greeted the omelette chef with a big smile, exchanging a few easy words that felt like a luxury after a day of struggling to communicate. We laughed. Now we had a secret, a shared memory of my awkward attempts at Hindi. It was a small moment, but it felt meaningful. Speaking my own language felt almost too easy, like I'd unlocked a superpower I'd always taken for granted. But something inside me had shifted. This challenge was about more than language. It was a lesson in humility and vulnerability. It taught me patience and reminded me how it feels to be on the outside looking in. It showed me the universal power of kindness, and how a simple smile or gesture can bridge even the widest language gap. People met my clumsy attempts with grace and humour. Instead of frustration, I found encouragement and laughter, and that made all the difference. The real magic of travel happens when you step outside your comfort zone, when you're willing to stumble and learn. You don't have to be fluent, just willing to try. Every attempt, no matter how imperfect, is a sign of respect and curiosity. That effort is a bridge to connection. It's how strangers become friends, and how the world feels a little smaller. So, wherever you go, try a few words in the local language. Even if you get it wrong, you'll be met with smiles and open hearts. Be ready to be embarrassed. The connections you make will be worth it. Those little moments of vulnerability are where the best memories are made. It will change how you see the world, opening your eyes to new perspectives and deeper understanding. And it will change how the world sees you, no longer just a visitor, but someone willing to connect. Thanks for watching and for joining me on this adventure. I hope you'll carry this spirit of curiosity and courage wherever you travel next.